right? I generally don't advocate enrolling hundreds and hundreds of people into the first run of your course because, there's a great Bill Gates quote, speed and technology applied to an inefficient process will just multiply the inefficiency, right? So start small, see what's working, see what doesn't, etc.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joel Irway here, and welcome to another very special episode of Experts Unleashed. And today, I'm really excited. We get to talk about something that I am very passionate about, and I get to bring on a very special guest who also shares this same passion. And my guest today is Danny Inney from Miracy, and we are going to be talking about, guess what? Courses, online courses, the hybrid course revolution, what's the current state of the online course market, and all things related to online courses. Now, Danny is very well versed, very well experienced in producing, selling, launching, creating online courses, and he's taught thousands of entrepreneurs how to start and grow their own online courses. So I'm really excited to chat with Danny here today. Danny and I have been connected for quite a few years. I remember, Danny, I drove out to Toronto a few years back where you had me in person for an in-person interview. That was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to have you on the show. So welcome, my man. It's great to have you.
Thank you. I'm super, super excited. I was just thinking back to that time in the hotel suite when we recorded that interview, which was fantastic. And I was like, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun.
Really great. So let's give us we were chatting before this call, and you were talking about the hybrid course revolution. It's a pretty catchy buzzword. So let's kind of jump right in and, you know, give us an overview of what is the hybrid course revolution, and I think that'll be a great kickoff for the direction of this call.
Yeah, sure. So 30,000 feet, right? Why would someone pay you for anything, right? People only want to pay you if what you're offering is a shortcut to help them get what they want in less time, at less cost, or with less risk than it would take for them to just do it on their own, right? And so if you look at online courses as something that people have paid a lot of money for, over the years, they've done it because an online course is a way of getting that shortcut. I'll help you get this outcome faster or with less cost or with less risk of failure. But what it took to deliver that shortcut has changed over the years. And I divide the recent history, recent meaning the last few decades, of online courses into kind of four ages. So the first age was the age of access, right? Back in those days, think like early 2000s, maybe even late 2000s, information was scarce. It was hard to find the information that you wanted. And so if I have the information that you want in my course, and you can't find it anywhere else, then that justifies a premium. Just the information that you can't get anywhere else, that's a shortcut, right? And that worked for a while until all this information just exploded online. There are blog posts, there are YouTube videos, there's so much content out there. And then here, take my course where you'll find this information is no longer a shortcut because it's like there's information everywhere. And so then it became about curation and convenience, right? I don't just want to have access to the information. I also want there to be none of the information I don't need, right? You just filter just the stuff that I want. And so now, you've got these carefully curated, just the information you need compiled in one place. And it doesn't matter if you can find a lot of this stuff elsewhere on blogs and on YouTube and on all these different places, but this is like one focused, curated experience. That was a valuable shortcut.
This is the age of curation, is that right? We had age of access.
Yeah, this is the age of convenience, but the focus was all about like curation and making it easy for people. And that worked well again for a little while until curated information started to become ubiquitous. There are curated newsletters. You can find curated focused courses on platforms like Udemy and Masterclass and Highbrow, and the list goes on. There's a ton of curated information. And so people aren't going to pay a premium for that anymore because they can get it in lots of places. And there's something interesting that's happening with this evolution along the way, which is there's an acceleration. So back of the napkin, let's say that first age of access, right? Let's say that ran 2000 to 2012. Then we've got this age of convenience, and that runs, let's call it 2012 to 2018, right? So that's like half of the length of time of the previous age. And then we get to kind of, let's call it 2019 to 2021 or so, right? So we're looking at just a few years. There's information everywhere. There's curated content everywhere. People have, everyone's got courses they've bought that are sitting on their hard drive or they have the logins to and they've never gone into them, right? And so it's not just about, is this even a good course, good information? It's about, will you make it easy and fun for me to go through it? Will you motivate me to want to go through it? Because in parallel with this proliferation of online courses, with the proliferation of digital media in general, right? So you're not just competing with, the other dude's course and that other platform. You're also competing with Netflix and Hulu and Game of Thrones, right? So then we've got the age of entertainment, right? And gamification was huge then, right? This very much coincided with a lot of the pandemic where everyone's suddenly at home. Their attention is split 4,000 different ways. So it's not enough to just give me the information. It's not enough to curate the right information. Now the shortcut is you make me want to go through it. And that worked for a while too. And that brings us to the present, where there is so much information, it's so well curated, the gamification and the entertainment and the production value, even that has become table stakes. And what the world is waking up to is the fact that fundamentally, again, we pay a significant amount of money. We pay a premium to get a shortcut to an outcome that is meaningful. Outcomes that are meaningful take work to get us to experience them, right? It's not easy. If it was easy, I wouldn't need much of a shortcut. And that brings us to the age of transformation. It brings us to the hybrid course revolution where people will pay a premium, but they will not pay a premium for anything less than the transformation they're actually looking for. And so what does it take to deliver that transformation? The answer is a hybrid approach. You've got to not focus on any one tool. I've been talking about hybrid courses for the last 6 months nonstop, and people ask me all the time, so what exactly is hybrid? Does that mean coaching? Does it mean gamification? Does it mean cohorts? Does it mean community? Does it mean micro-learning? And the answer to those questions is yes, right? It's not about any one of those tools. It's about having the whole toolbox so you can adjust the sliders and create the experience that will create the best transformation for your customers in a way that is scalable and practical and feasible for you. So 30,000 feet, that's what we're talking about.
That's interesting. And, what I love about this is because for me, like, I talk about courses, but I admittedly talk very little about like the delivery of the course. I'm more on the marketing side. Like, okay, what are your core benefits? Like, what are people really interested? Like, that's where my specialty is. And to have someone explain the evolution of the online course industry really opens your eyes. Like taking us through the four ages: the age of access, the age of convenience, the age of entertainment, and the age of transformation. It it's something that I've always I don't want to say like ignored, because like in my personal experience, like I just want to make sure I get them the end result. And so, from a marketing standpoint now, like, I know there are people out there who talk about gamification. That becomes a real like selling point for their course and their product. Like this now becomes a selling feature. Like this is something that you have to promote, meaning like you have to really bring it to the attention of like, hey, this isn't just some cookie cutter course or some list of curated videos in a membership area. Like if you want to really increase conversion rate, you have to speak to what's going on in the customer mind, and like they don't want that anymore. And so I like making that link because I'm a marketing guy, I'm a sales guy, and it's really great to kind of see this. So let's talk about the hybrid approach. Like let's go deeper now. Like, and what does this look like? What does the hybrid approach look like?
Yeah, so, and I love that question, and it's the hardest question to answer because every hybrid course looks different. But, when we think about the word hybrid, hybrid means essentially neither A nor B, but a mix of both, right? So a hybrid car isn't all about, gas and internal combustion. It's also not all electric. It's a bit of both, right? A mix of both of those technologies. And so let's look at some of the different areas where you can look at a hybridized place for your courses, right? So one dimension you might look at is, is the course experienced live or is it experienced asynchronously, right? So am I going through this content along with everyone else, or am I going through it whenever I want on my own time? Is it being experienced live or pre-recorded? That's another dimension, right? Is it going to be, all video or all audio or all text, or is it a mix of those things? Am I studying on my own, or do I work with a coach? Or again, is it a mix of both? Is it virtual online, or is it in person? Or again, a mix. And the point is not that you have to say like land right in the middle on all of these dimensions. It's that these are all sliders that you can adjust. Say this one's going to go a little further left, that one's going to go a little further right. Because the question you ultimately need to ask is, to your point about marketing, at the end of the day, what is the outcome people want to buy? And once in a while, we find ourselves in a niche where we are selling something that everyone thinks is really hard, but we know is really easy. And those are the best courses in the world to sell because they're really easy to put together. And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe you can deliver this. But most of the time, the reason people want to pay a premium to do something is because it's actually hard. And so you have to get people to do something really hard, right? If they don't have no sense of marketing and you want to help them get good at marketing, you can give them the shortcut. You must give them the shortcuts. That's the whole point. But there's still a whole skill set to develop, right? And so you've got to help them climb that ladder. And then it becomes a question of what will it take for me to do that? So will it take good, clear instruction? Sure. Will it take an opportunity for them to apply what they're learning? Sure. Will it maybe require that they applied it, but they didn't apply it great, so there's a way for them to get some feedback in terms of how to do it differently or better? Very likely, right? Will it take, are they going to go through it all on their own, meaning, if they get distracted, then it just falls off their radar? Or will we integrate some components of accountability and structure to keep them on track, right? And the more challenging of a thing you're helping people to do, then the more you have to be really thoughtful about how you blend these elements. And it creates a really good opportunity too, because ultimately you don't want to say, all right, I'm teaching something hard, and so I'm going to sit here and just be with you 24/7 to help you make this work, because you're going to run yourself ragged. I'll give you a great example. So someone that we worked with, his name is Ian Roberts. And he's an artist. He teaches painting and drawing composition. And so when he came to us, he wanted to create a course teaching drawing composition, and he wanted to go above and beyond, create a great experience. So people paid $500. They went through this thing where it's kind of like a challenge. Every week they're doing a certain amount of work. They're doing a drawing every day, and they submit their drawing once a week. And he would review each and every one of those and record a Loom video with feedback. And we helped him with the planning and with the course and with the marketing. And because we're good at it, right, his launch was super successful. He made like $120-something thousand in his first launch, which means he had a ton of people going through it. And he found himself with this great success. And when he told me about it later, he was like, I called my studio the Loom Tomb, because I was in there like locked nonstop writing, recording these reviews. And that was great for the first run, and he saw what people needed, etc. But as he went to be like, all right, it's time to launch it again, and I want to enroll even more people, I want to make even more money, but I don't want to be tied to it in that way, you can start looking at, how do I adjust those hybrid sliders? Do I integrate an experience where people are giving feedback to each other using certain criteria that I give them so that they're able to do that well? Do I work with coaches on my team or teacher's assistants that I teach how to do this in a way that is scalable? So, I can afford to spend $100 per student if I'm charging 500, right? The unit economics can work. But we looked at, how do we adjust all those sliders? And fast forward a year, he launches it again, he makes $370,000. But he's spending less of his hours supporting those students than he did the first time around. And that's the beauty of hybrid. You can dial up the value that they get while dialing down the amount of your time that is spent but doesn't really need to be.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think this is a question that probably a lot of people have. Like when we talk about this hybrid approach, right? The hybrid approach to launching your courses and selling your courses and delivering your courses. Where do you feel is like the biggest advancement or the biggest value add with hybrid? Is it the customer, like in the eyes of the customer? Like if I'm going through a sales page and I'm considering buying one of your students' courses who is selling a hybrid approach, what's the benefit for me? Like, what am I going to be really excited about and like a core focus of a hybrid program? Like, what is probably going to push me over the edge to get me excited about this?
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about what's in the course that makes it valuable, and then let's talk about how it translates to the marketing that makes people understand that it's valuable. So fundamentally, at the end of the day, I mean, yes, you're talking about customer and student experience. Yes, you're talking about learning design. All that goes into it. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, it's about helping your students get the result that you're promising, right? It is making your course work. And this is critically important. If you look at the statistics on how many people even finish courses, never mind, get an actual result from them, the numbers are abysmal, right? They're like, high single digits. Imagine if you sell toasters and less than 1 in 10 of them actually make toast, right? You'd be out of business, if not maybe in jail, right? This is a crazy, crazy situation. And people try to address that with, well, let's just throw a ton of gamification at it, right? Let's have lots of bells and whistles and the dancing unicorns and the cash register sounds. But that only goes so far because gamification is fundamentally a tool of motivation. And motivation empowers us to do to the best of our ability what we are already capable of doing. So, if I'm distracted or bored, then give me, dangle a carrot in front of me. Yeah, all right, I'll jump in, I'll complete module 1. But if module 2 is just hard and I can't understand it, then no amount of motivation is going to help me. I need better instruction and support. So all of this is there to help people get an outcome. Now, how does that translate to marketing? The stronger your course is, the more strongly you can stand behind not just the promise of here's what you will hopefully experience, but here's what you will actually experience. So something that I've become known for over the last, going on close to a decade now, is that we guarantee results in just about all of our programs, right? It's always a conditional guarantee, meaning you have to put in the time, do the work, because our courses are great, but not magic, right? But if you put in the time, you do the work, you will get the result that we're promising, right? In terms of launching your course, in terms of making whatever amount of money is tied into the promise of the course. And if not, we'll give you your money back. We'll keep working with you depending on what fits with that program. But we can say, you will get this result. We guarantee it. We're only able to do that because of everything that's going on the back end. Otherwise, a promise like that would bankrupt us, right? People are getting much, much more discerning. Like if we look 30,000 feet at the evolution of any customer group over time, there's a model called the diffusion of innovations from Everett Rogers. It was posited in, I think, the 70s or something. And we've all seen it. It's those bell curves of innovators and early adopters and the early majority. It's that. So if you look at your early adopters and your innovators, these are people who like to be on the bleeding edge. They're excited about upside. They don't care as much about downside. They're willing to take risk, right? They're excited about trying everything new. If you've got a closet full of crap that you ordered on Kickstarter, then you're an innovator or an early adopter. Most people are not like that. Most people are much more mainstream buyers. They're like, I want to know that it's going to work. I want to see other people like me who've bought it, that it will work. I want strong proof and confidence behind it. And so in the early days, think back to the age of access, the age of convenience, et cetera. It was mostly innovators and early adopters buying courses. And so you could get away with, frankly, a much weaker promise and much greater, shiny, look at everything you could potentially do. The mainstream market of course buyers is just not that willing to take a risk. They want to know that they can really trust you to deliver. And you can put a lot of those safeguards in place. You can put guarantees. You can put pay me after you've gotten a result. I'm not saying anyone should do any one of those things, by the way. But you have a lot of the flexibility to stand behind your promise in a much stronger way that is much more compelling to your customer, but only if the course can then actually deliver.
Mm-hmm. So what now becomes the marketing for that? Meaning, like, what becomes that attractive hook? Is it just a stronger guarantee, or is it kind of like anti-course selling where it's like, hey, this isn't just a, self-paced study program. Like, this is a coaching program. You're going to get, like, not only is it a course, but like you're going to get the support. You're going to get like all these other things. How would you sell a hybrid program as like that hook, that
Yeah.
sexiness?
So it depends a little bit on how sophisticated the specific market that you're selling into is. There's this great line from William Gibson, who's a futurist, and he says that the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed, right? And so, you've got this, yeah, and I tell a story to kind of illustrate this. This was like a few years ago. I was traveling to some conference and I had a layover at an airport for a few hours. I'm wandering around trying to kill time. And I see a Brookstone store. So they have like all these like fancy gadgets. So I walk into the store and on like a stand there's this like, I don't know, 2 feet tall, lifelike Yoda doll. I'm like, okay, this looks cool. I kind of just step in to take a look. And its eyes open and it looks up like totally animatronic. And it speaks and it says, teach you to use the force, I will. Right, in proper Yoda syntax. And I'm like, okay. And he continues, he says, stretch out your arm. And so, I stretch out my arm a little bit like this, kind of like it's telling me. And he's got these like motors or something. He gets flung back, like I force pushed him. And my first thought is, oh my God, that's so cool. And my second thought is like, I have to get this. And then my third thought is, no, this is stupid. My wife would kill me and it won't fit in my suitcase. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I walk on. And a couple minutes later, I step into the men's room. And you see this row of men standing in front of a row of sinks, like waving their arms wildly, trying to get the motion sensor to release the water. Right? That's what it means that the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed, right? Like the technology is there. It's just not everywhere yet. And so, when it comes to online courses, some markets are like, they've seen online courses, nonstop for years, if not decades. They're very familiar, which means they're also very familiar with the shortcomings. And so in that scenario, yeah, you're absolutely going to be positioning against what is going on in the course industry at large, right? This is not just some information only course. This is not one of those courses which is just a bunch of videos in the membership site. This is not one of those courses where you're on your own. This is not one of those courses where we make big promises but don't deliver. So you're very much doing the positioning against. In a less sophisticated market, one that hasn't been looking at courses left, right, and center for years, right? You're not going to do the positioning against because they don't know what you're positioning against. They don't have that context. Then you're just leaning into the strong proof elements, right? These are the promises we make. These are the ways that we stand behind those promises. This is why you can trust us, right? I think it's Eugene Schwartz who said that, anything you say as a marketer is a claim, right? And claims are great, but people don't trust marketers, and usually for good reason. And so every claim you want to back it up with proof. And so there are different ways that you can essentially prove the claim you're making. You will be successful in my course. You will get that result. That is a claim, right? We guarantee it, and these are the terms of the guarantee, as a form of proof. This is the structure of the course that will deliver this outcome, is a form of proof. And so, you'll mix and match, but how much you're positioning against what is already in the marketplace, the kind of courses that you're not doing, versus just speaking to the outcome and then the proof of that will depend on how sophisticated and frankly jaded and maybe burned the customer base is.
Yeah. What always got me, like, I've never really heard it positioned as like a hybrid program, hybrid courses, et cetera, et cetera. But what always got me with developing these is like, for me, I want to create courses and I sell courses for, like, obviously I want to help people, like, that's primary, right? But I also want it to be a lifestyle. And I have seen so many times, similar stories to what you talked about with your client Ian, in the art space, who they launch a course and they don't realize how, it's funny because, like, normally what you'll do is you'll launch a course and, like, you want to support as many people as possible. And so that goes into your fulfillment, that goes into your promise, that goes into your offer. Like, okay, cool, I'll review all your drawings. Not either, number one, underestimating how many people are actually going to take you up on the offer, or number two, underestimating how much time that's actually going to take. And so that's part of the iterative process too. So I'm not, it's all, it comes with, its pros and cons. But if you were to help somebody starting from scratch with a hybrid program and an evergreen hybrid program, like, let's forget a launch because, for the purpose of this conversation, like, how would you design a hybrid program that allows it to be scalable and evergreen? So the student gets the support that they need, but the instructor doesn't get burdened. Is it as simple as, okay, hire a coach to help support you? Or have you found a way that, you could design this around a one-man band, a one-man shop that provides us to be, let's just say infinitely scalable with the support that's needed?
Yeah, so it could be all of those things. So from a process standpoint, you'd want to start small, right? I generally don't advocate enrolling hundreds and hundreds of people into the first run of your course because, there's a great Bill Gates quote, speed and technology applied to an inefficient process will just multiply the inefficiency, right? So start small, see what's working, see what doesn't, etc. And see what does it really take to deliver an outcome for my student. And then when you look at scaling it, you can look at, well, how do I scale that in a way that makes sense and is cost effective? And I find that people often approach that question of scalability a little bit backwards, right? They start kind of in the position that Ian was. Well, there are only this many hours in the day, and I'm spending all my time doing this. So essentially, the question is, well, how can I do less? And I don't like that framing of a question. How can I do less for my customers? I actually like the framing of, what if I wanted to do more? Right? Because, let's look at Ian. He couldn't do more. He didn't have enough hours in the day. So you've got to start thinking about, well, how will I resource it differently? And you want to make a few distinctions. One is separating out what has to be done from what you have to personally do. And the second is separating out what you can afford to deliver personally versus what the unit economics of your course allow you to afford to deliver on a cost basis for each individual course. So case in point, let's say that it took Ian $100 worth of his time to support one student through the course. Over a certain number of students, that's cost prohibitive for him and his schedule. But $100 of cost out of a $500 sale, that's totally doable if you can pay someone else to do it. And so you want to think about it in that way. Now, how do you scale? There are generally two approaches you can take. And I mean, there's also the just, you streamline, you remove the inefficiency, et cetera. But let's say we've already done that. So one is you can scale through team, right? So I don't have to provide the support if coaches on my team who know my methodology can provide the support. And if I have the unit economics to do that, then the math works, right? That's all good. That's how we work in our programs. I have maybe 20 coaches who work for me full time, and they deliver a tremendous experience to all of our students, and that's why they get such great results. It doesn't take a lot of my time personally, right? But the students don't care how much of my personal time is involved. They care about how much support do they get to get them to an outcome. So you can scale through team. The other way that you can scale is through structure, right? And that's where you can look at a lot of automated and peer-based structures. So there's really interesting research. If you look for Daphne Koller TED Talk, she's one of the founders of Coursera. She talks about this in her TED Talk. But when you use peer grading structures, meaning I submit my work and then I look at the work of 3 of my peers and I give them a grade or I give them feedback, right? If it's structured correctly with the right incentives, with the right guidance, you end up with the same grades the professor would have given anyway. And not only that, what we've found, because we've implemented structures like this in a number of our programs, people learn the most from the process of giving feedback to somebody else, because you have to look at the work critically. And you're just far enough removed from it that you're not so close you can't see anything. So there are different ways you could do it, but there are a lot of options.
We'll echo that final point, and I'll give an example. So in our workshops on the marketing side, we run, small, intimate, $5,000 per seat workshops, and we help them craft their message, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that I learned this through a book called Copy Logic, which was written by Michael Masterson of Agora, and he used this to train young green copywriters and help them level up their game very, very quickly to improve the efficiency of them producing more copy for more promotions in the juggernaut of Agora. And so what it was you put 5 copywriters in a circle, everyone brings the copy to be reviewed, you present it, and then they have it's a group grading system. So it's not up to the chief copywriter to critique it. It's actually up to all the other junior copywriters to critique other people's stuff. And so we implemented that in our workshops, and every single time you enter the workshop, you think, okay, great, I'm going to get my copy reviewed. I'm going to get my offer reviewed. And they're really excited. And then they sit down and they realize they learned way more by critiquing other people's work, because now you're in a different frame of mind of trying to improve, and you see other people's work. And so every single time when the workshop is over and we ask for feedback, 99% of the feedback is, I can't believe how much value I got from critiquing other people's work. And I've always found that's a difficult sell. That's a difficult selling point for the customer, because if you try and tell them like, "Oh, you're gonna learn so much by critiquing other people's work," like, that's not their like, they wanna get their stuff critiqued. Like, it's always, like, the flip side, but I I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing when you implement that type of feedback loop. I've never considered doing that in, like, an evergreen format. We've tried to do it virtually and, just our particular structure, and we found some hiccups, but, like, if you've mastered that, like, man, I'm sure that the customer feedback of that, like, if you can deliver that on scale, like, that's I know people would be thrilled. Like, the customers going through that process are absolutely thrilled because I've experienced it. It's fantastic.
Well, in a lot of ways, that's actually easier to do on an evergreen basis, right? If you're doing a big launch, you've got, I don't know, 500, 1,000 people who just signed up. You're not like, and no individual student is like reviewing 1,000 other things. So you've got to do like a sort of cell division, putting them in pods, matching them up. Doing that with 1,000 people is like an administrative nightmare. It's doable, certainly, but it's like, it's a lot of work. Whereas if you've got like, 20, 30, 50 people joining your course every month, and you just say, all right, we've got a cycle starting a pod starting, every week or every 2 weeks or every whatever it is. It's you and these 5 people. And there you go. You're going to be reviewing and submitting your work. And it's nice and easy. So there are a lot of ways to structure it. You also said something that I think is really important to call out from a marketing perspective. And this is really hard for people once they like get into it and they put all this effort into the design of their course. They're like super proud and excited about it. Don't focus on selling the pedagogy. Pedagogy is not sexy. Pedagogy is not something that will get people excited to buy from you, right? You can lean on it as a proof element. What you're selling is the outcome that you are able to uniquely deliver because of the pedagogy. But the pedagogy itself is not why people are going to buy. And that's a really important thing to call out.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of one of these things that got revealed when we did these live workshops, and I tried it once, and people just left like, I would have paid $100,000 to go through this experience. I'm like, wow, I mean, that's good feedback. Like, that's how powerful it was, and it's not that I want to say that my stuff is amazing. It's obviously great, but it's because you just do the group feedback and you put them in a different. It's now it's I'm going to stumble on how to explain this, but it's like the ultimate form of learning is like the stages of learning. And Danny, you probably know this. Like, you probably know the official term is like you learn, but then like the ultimate form of comprehension is when you can actually teach other people. It's like you learn first, then there might be a step above that, but like ultimately it's like when you can teach other people. I feel like there's something there with the group teach of like giving feedback.
There is.
Yeah.
So I can tell you what's going on there, right? So a lot of people have heard, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are familiar with the 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell popularized, right? If you want to become world class at something, you've got to spend 10,000 hours on it. Except in this particular case, he got it wrong. He was quoting the research of Dr. K. Anders Ericsson about deliberate practice, and that was not at all the point of the research. The point of the research was that it matters a lot less how many hours you spend practicing. It matters a lot more how you spend those hours, like what you're actually doing with them. So what you want to be doing is deliberate practice. And deliberate practice means practicing the part that is really hard, the part that you're struggling with. So let's say you want to learn you want to get really good at piano, right? So if you have an hour to practice, you sit down and you spend 5 minutes doing scales, and then you spend 20 minutes practicing songs that are like super easy just to warm up, and you do some songs that are fun after that. And the last 10 minutes you practice the song that is challenging, and you get stuck at the 2 minute mark. So you do the 2 minutes, and then at the end you're stuck. Then out of that hour, you've practiced in a deliberate way for like, I don't know, 25 seconds, right? What a professional would do is say, all right, I'm struggling with this 20-second part of this song. I'm going to spend an hour repeating that, repeating that, repeating that. And so when you're doing this peer feedback, it accomplishes two things. One, you get a lot more reps in, right, to just do the practice. You're practicing specifically looking at the thing that you just learned that is like right at the edge of your abilities. But also you're doing it like just far enough removed, because when it's your own work, you're very emotionally invested in it. So it's harder to be objective. So it has this incredible ability. But to your point about being able to sell it, right, marketing is always about using language that communicates the real value. So let's say, for example, that I'm hosting a mastermind retreat. So, you're going to get on a plane, you're going to come to me, we're going to spend 3 days, it's going to be amazing. and I say, and we're going to serve burgers, right? Now, maybe I know that I have the world, like I've got the world's like most effective gourmet chef of burgers. It's a life-changing experience, right? But like a lot of people reading it, like burgers, like you can get that at McDonald's. How is that a big deal? Right? So you want to make sure that you're using language that will create the right association for the person listening, not that you know to be the most accurate. So I might say, even though I know it's burgers, I might never use the word burgers. I might say, and over the 3 days you will experience the wonderful, delectable foods prepared by chef so and so, whatever it is, right? Drawing on traditional American and other culinary cuisines or whatever. I'm going to make them, oh, this sounds great, right? And they can be pleasantly surprised. Oh, it's a burger. It's better than any burger I've ever had. So, if I was selling that kind of a peer-based workshopping experience, I might say something like, and best of all, you're going to get to participate in our proprietary process that we have seen accelerates dramatically the internalization of the learning of copy, that creates a quantum leap in our learning and understanding. I wouldn't say, and that structure is peer feedback, because people read that and they don't know what it means. They think it's like, oh, that means I'm going to get homework. Right? So you want to make sure that you're selling what will make sense, and with pedagogy especially, you don't want to get too technical. I guess with every area, but I see this a lot. People are like, oh, this is so cool what it does. Let's talk about it.
Well, I think like one of the biggest takeaways for me, and I hope people understand this, is that like implementing these, I'm going to call them high performance courses, right? Because that's ultimately what it is. I mean, yes, you want to raise this, like raise the standard of what programs are, these courses or coaching programs, these hybrid programs, whatever you want to call it. Bottom line is, like, if you don't care about your student success, like that's a recipe for absolute failure. Throwing better marketing at an underperforming course is only going to tarnish your brand and your reputation faster. Like, get a really good marketing system to sell an underperforming product is just going to tell more people that you have a horrible product, which is not a good thing. And so, one of the biggest takeaways for me is, understanding how to implement this at, I don't want to say at scale, because you explained it, very, very eloquently earlier on, but it's like understanding how to do this in a slowly scalable process that gets that amazing feedback, like doing these pods, right? Like, I know group feedback doesn't require my input. It's a highly leveraged thing, but I've never been able to kind of like figure out how to do it in a leveraged delivery mechanism, so I never did it. Like, I just kind of threw it to the side, and I just never solved that problem. But like, for you, anyone listening right now, like if you want to implement that group feedback, like inside of your course or your program, like implement the pod structure. Like, hey, every 2 weeks we're going to start a new pod, and it's a new group of 5, because now that's like an internal launch system that, okay, if you're chosen in these first 5 or whatever, great, like you get that feedback. But if you miss out on that, like all the other students, like they see it, like, okay, I can't wait to get the next one. Like, it builds anticipation within your network and your community, but like there's so much power there, and that's a highly leveraged thing that I hope people really take away from this. Like, that's an actionable tip that you can go implement in your course, in your program, in your hybrid program right now. And I just want to really highlight that, because that's a moneymaker. That's a game changer.
I want to add, like, to that point. I mean, we've seen amazing results with peer-based feedback structures. You can do really great things with it, and there are a lot of ways to structure them, and there are a lot of just other ways you can structure making it scalable as well. So, that is a great thing to experiment with. But I would say it's less important to like really get, oh, this is the thing, I've just got to do the pods of 5, because that might not work in every business, right? It's one, experiment with, like, let your mind get creative about what are all the different ways I could try this. Because there are a lot of options when we really start exploring. And frankly, I mean, to your point, you tried it, it didn't work when you were trying to set it up, because it's something very worthwhile, but also not super easy, right? You've got to get it exactly right. And so this is an area where if you want to do something hard, work with someone who knows how to do it. I mean, where we started this is, people pay for a shortcut. That's what I do for people. If you want to make this work, I have the shortcut, right? That's what I do.
Yeah. I will add, because like, I'm so fascinated with this, because like me seeing it when you talked about it, like I see so much potential in solving a lot of problems. But I'll add just to kind of help close the loop on this because we spent a lot of time on it. But like your students, not your students, students love to show their work. It's like the appreciation factor of like, look at me, like everyone wants to get recognized, whether they believe it or not. Like you want to be recognized for doing good things and getting rewarded and this idea of like how can you implement more like show your work elements in your program, like, and I think that will drastically change the engagement level of your program. And I think you can add that on top of like this peer pod feedback. And I like, I don't know, I just got really excited to improve my program.
I'm that I could not have a better outcome from a conversation. As a teacher, like that's music to my ears. So thank you.
Well, it's not a sexy topic to talk about. Like it's not as sexy as talking about how to sell courses because that's directly translated to money. How to design courses, like come on, really? Like, can't I just put videos together and like give it to people? Like, yeah, you can, but like, here's where we're going. Like, here are the 4 ages of the course industry, and like, if you want to do that, go for it. Like, and report back how your brand is doing, like how your students are doing, and what the feedback is. It's like, you know. It's not a sexy topic to talk about. So hopefully, Danny, we've been able to sexify this a little bit on this interview and show people why this is so important. Um, but anyway, I digress, which happens a lot when I get excited about a topic. And so, is there anything else that like you wish that we would have talked about, or like maybe I skirted over that is really important to talk about with hybrid programs?
I mean, we actually covered a lot of ground, so there's nothing that I was like, oh, I was going to talk about this, but we forgot. There's lots more we could talk about, of course, but we can do a whole other conversation at some point. But I think we covered really a lot that is important, and the most important thing is not the tips, it's not the tactics, it's not the strategies. It's that fundamentally, at the end of the day, what people will pay you a premium for, what will be a real engine for your business because you're delivering outcomes, is that you can deliver a shortcut reliably, consistently, help people get the outcomes they want in less time, at less cost, and with less risk. That is what people will pay a premium for. And so putting the time and energy into figuring out, well, how do I make sure my course actually does that? It just supercharges everything else you're doing.
Yeah, it's so critical. I mean, you know, the way that the course industry is going, like this is a must have. Like this is not optional anymore. This is a must have because what you are seeing the commoditization of courses. Can you compete with masterclass? Like, we could always say, oh, can you compete with Udemy? Because they're selling, inexpensive courses and whatnot, but it's not really, I'm sure that I know there are great courses on Udemy, but like, there's a way to position yourself better where you can sell a more premium version. But now you've got Masterclass, and what does Masterclass have? Well, they've got, Hollywood cinema production. They've got celebrities, Stephen Curry teaching basketball. Who's not? How are you going to compete with that? Like, not only do you have Hollywood cinema production, but you've got literally the best shooter to ever grace this planet teaching it. So if you're going to create a course on basketball or shooting or you name it, how are you going to compete with that? Well, you have to look at what Masterclass is not doing, and this is the solution. So, yeah, we are rapidly accelerating into a completely different world, a completely different age of the online course industry, and this was a fascinating discussion. So I'm glad that we had it, Danny. What's the next step for anyone who wants to kind of take that next journey with you? I know you've got a launch coming up, and you've got some great resources to share. So let's drop some links.
Yeah, well, we've got a ton of stuff coming up and coming out, so people should keep an eye open. I know that you're going to be sharing with your community a bunch of that stuff. In the absence of kind of like where specifically should I go, we've got a memo that we put together of, here's how the industry's changing, here's what you need to know. I call it the Hybrid Course Revolution memo. And I guess we'll put a link in the show notes because you're going to have a special link for everyone to go grab it.
Yep, we'll include all the links down below. So Danny, it's been awesome, man. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. It got me jazzed up to, we're actually rewriting our webinar and redoing our program, and this just gave me a lot of great inspiration for how to up-level the success of our students, and I'm excited. So thanks for spending the time, man. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and if you're listening to this right now, go check out Danny's resources down below, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Awesome. Joel, thanks so much.